The UnPodcast is brought to you by Emma. Get more from your email marketing.
In a world where QR codes kill kittens and customer service is an oxymoron, one podcast has set out to make things right. This is the UnPodcast with your hosts, Scott Stratten and Allison Kramer.
A very happy end of summer. That's depressing. I apologize for starting it off.
That means football.
That means football. Are you ready for some football?
The best thing about fall is the clothes. I like fall clothes. I like boots. And football.
Is my wardrobe supposed to change by the season?
Well, traditionally wardrobes would change in our climate because it goes from hot weather to cold weather. So yeah, a little bit.
I know we alienate our international listeners overseas when we talk about football, but especially when it's football and not
We mean
football.
American football.
But yeah, another season of fantasy football.
It's always good for our relationship.
This seems to be the year for Stafford infection. My team.
Yeah, is it your year?
Oh, it's never my year. Ever. I run the league for a bunch of you. Nothing. Did the Emma graphic just come up? I wasn't even talking about Emma and it came up.
He just keeps it right
Adam's
there.
trying to hint. Hey, yo.
Talk about Emma, dudes.
The people who pay for all this stuff. For now. All right. There she is.
Yay, Emma.
You all know Emma. And if you're new,
Go check her out.
They float the boat for the show. They sponsor it, so check them out. Email marketing. They're an email platform. You want to send emails to your potential customers, your target market per se? Want to do some split testing? Got them. Want to put an animated GIF and or GIFs in your emails? They got them. Whatever you want. Heat maps, split test, just every term you can make up in marketing, they got. Go to myemma.com/unpodcast for tips and tricks on all your email marketing needs. Thank them because we thank them for supporting this show. As always,
I think when this episode comes out, you will have just finished your 5 gigs in 5 days extravaganza. Yeah?
close. It might be right around that time. 5 or 6 gigs, and including multiple connecting flights. Oh,
Why are you doing this to yourself?
folks, I need to tell you something right now. You need to listen very carefully. I am not a man of many needs. I don't want for much. But when I have to sit in economy on flights, it is something that nobody understands the struggle.
The privileged
fairly
white
well-off white straight man
in economy.
in economy. We flew. So as if you don't hate me enough, so I fly business class for gigs because I fly about 120, 130 flights a year. And part of being a fancy speaker that's in somewhat of a demand, you get to be able to fly nicely because you fly so much. But we brought the 6 of us to San Francisco, the family, a few weeks back. So we didn't want to mortgage the house again. And so we flew 6 seats in economy. And
It's an audible, like I can feel your disappointment. It's just easier if Scott flies
the
in first
guy
class.
in front of me on takeoff, reclined his seat fully. Now in business class, ladies and gentlemen, if you recline, I don't even know you did. It's like, oh, you're a little bit closer to me, but you're still 7 feet away. He hits my iPad, which was on my lap, into me, which is fine. Which is fine.
The most spoiled statement I've ever heard. My giant iPad.
I am not done.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll let you finish.
Excuse me, iPad Pro.
Yeah, exactly.
And with my Bluetooth Bose headphones.
Yeah, exactly.
So, hello, I'm not, but it's
So
still
spoiled.
And then proceeds to go back and forth, leaning back and forth in his chair 32 times. Every time the seat jumps back into me. If he was having a seizure, understandable.
I was perfectly comfortable.
And now, not done, and this is where you'll really feel for me, folks. The person behind me, tough to call a human, is pressing the touch. Whoever came up with these touch screens in headrests in air and on planes has never flown in one, because to do it, Apparently people think it's not a touch screen, it's a punch screen.
Oh, poor Scott.
And he's
so
hitting his screen like he's giving it CPR. Like the headrest has gone into cardiac arrest and he needs to do the 1,000 presses as hard and quick as he can in under a minute.
Poor Scott.
I am having the symphony of pain
Oh, you're so spoiled.
while flying for 5 hours. And I look around and I'm like, is this how humans live? And the answer is yes.
I was perfectly comfortable. I had a great flight.
So now I am protesting economy.
No, he's not.
I'm no longer flying it.
You're so spoiled. Who has the first story today, me or you?
I think that was the first story. I just made the first story. That's why I have the first one here. So
You do? I
yeah.
think I do. But we can talk about it later.
Oh wait, no, you do. Okay, you sure? Which
Yeah,
Adam? What's
I think
first?
so. Samsung, right? He's not paying any attention.
Adam's not. He's on his phone.
Samsung.
All right.
This whole
so
whole episode is now gone. Off the rails. If you're new, this is how it usually is. So thank you.
poor Scott and economy.
Economy episode.
Adam not paying attention.
This is the economy episode. That's
This
correct.
is-
You didn't pay extra, guys, so this is what you get.
Adam's economy attention span. We
This-
didn't pay to upgrade. No baggage, except Adam comes with baggage. Hiya!
This story is from one of our favorite websites, theconsumerist.com, and it's talking about Samsung. Strangely, nothing's blowing up, exploding, breaking. We have a great chapter about Samsung in our new book, which is coming out in October, all about the highs and lows of Samsung, mostly the lows. So it says Samsung apologizes for descriptions of male, female Bixby voice assistants. Samsung has officially launched its very own voice-controlled artificially intelligent assistant, Bixby. The long-awaited answer, like people have just been waiting. The long-awaited answer to Siri and Alexa, and the service is already making a splash. Just not one Samsung probably imagined. They just can't catch a break over at Samsung. Gizmodo reports Samsung is apologizing and working on changes to the way it describes the voice assistant after users found the characterization sexist. Users of Bixby, which began rolling out today, noticed something a bit different about Samsung's voice assistant. It could be configured as a male or a female, which is for Siri as well. You can
Yep.
make it male or female. While this may be a welcome change for some users, the way Samsung describes the two versions of the assistant decidedly wasn't. Under the Bixby language and speaking style menu, Samsung notes in hashtags that the female version of Bixby is chipper and cheerful, while the male version is assertive and confident. Both versions are described as clear. Samsung tells Gizmodo that it is working to remove the hashtag descriptions, noting that it is constantly learning from customer feedback. I say that Samsung needs to pick up the learning a little bit, because I would love a good Samsung story. I feel like I'm hungry for something good. There's nothing good going on.
I find those descriptions accurate. They describe us. I find you
Chipper and
Chipper?
cheerful?
If I could pick one word to describe Allison, it would be chipper.
Oh, please. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever
And
heard.
what are the male ones?
Assertive and confident.
I think I am the greatest of all time, and I am also asserting that on you. So I think this is very accurate. I think just
I'm not chipper and cheerful.
no.
It's never a trap when someone says, one word to describe you.
Yeah.
Right. But it's also it's the contrast,
Yeah.
right? It's like it's the
Male versus female.
right.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So yeah, Samsung, come on. Give me a good story. I want one. I'm asking for one. I will be the first person to read the good Samsung story. Send them along, please.
We've tried. From the Business Insider, the CEO of Barstool Sports says she measures a job candidate's responsiveness by texting them at odd hours on the weekend.
Oh, she needs to get a life.
If Erica Nardini is going to hire you, first she wants to know you're committed to your job, even on a Sunday at 11 a.m. Well, that's not an odd hour.
When you have children.
Nardini is the CEO of the sports and men's lifestyle site Barstool Sports. Well, at least there's a woman CEO at the
Yeah.
men's. Well, that's nice. In a recent New York Times interview, she detailed her process for vetting job candidates. After saying she was a horrible interviewer because of her impatience, she explained a unique process for gauging potential hires' interest in the job. Here's something I do, she said. If you're in the process, I'm supposed to be chipper when I'm reading this, is that right?
I was just thinking,
Yeah,
I think
like
impatient.
chipper.
Maybe if you had to describe me, if I was your Bixby, it would be impatient and grumpy,
Yeah.
something like that.
So do I read this in a chipper tone.
No, assertive and
Here's something I
confident.
do.
God.
She said, if you're in the process of interviewing with us, I'll text you about something at 9 p.m. or 11 a.m. on a Sunday, just to see how fast you'll respond. The maximum response time she'll allow? 3 hours.
That's not so bad.
It's not that I'm going to bug you all weekend if you work for me, she said. I think you are. But I want you to be responsive. I think about work all the time. Other people don't have to be working all the time, but I want people who are also always thinking. You just contradicted yourself immediately in the exact sentence. The policy tracks with some of Nardini's other beliefs about work-life balance. In her Times interview, she said she valued work ethic to the extent it matters, quote, more than most anything, and that young people new to the career should get comfortable with discomfort. Quote, it's really great to feel uncomfortable, and you change so much as a person from that. A 2016 survey of roughly 5,000 employees by Project Time Off, that's a biased survey, and the market research firm GfK found that millennials were most likely to consider themselves work martyrs, or people who rarely take time off from work in pursuit of career advancement. The survey also found that millennials were most likely to demonstrate pride in their unfailing commitment to their jobs, while only 26% of Gen Xers and 20% of baby boomers wore the work martyr title as the badge of honor, with 35% of millennials.
So you think that's also like about the phase of your career that you're in?
The
like
phase of your life.
No, because
Yeah.
usually like if you're just getting started in any career, even if you go back and look at something more traditional or like go back 50 years at how jobs started, usually the new people in a company are expected to work more. Isn't that
Yeah,
normal?
hang on.
Like
I thought millennials were lazy and entitled. Hang on
Yeah.
a second. What
That's
surveys
weird.
are we looking at here? This is hilarious. I think about work all the time. Other people don't have to be working all the time, but I want people who are also always thinking. But wait,
that's a bit of a weird answer.
see what people don't understand here. I think that it's always getting lost, especially on people who own companies or who are management. They have a vested interest in the company. They have a vested, and usually vested by literally vested with options and stocks and ownership of it and equity, that their endless pursuit of work is not the same usually as an hourly or salaried employee.
Wouldn't you also say that the personality type that becomes CEO, particularly of a gender biased area like a sports bar,
men's sports site.
This is a woman who, which I think is fantastic. This is a woman who's climbed up the ranks to become CEO. Not only does she have the CEO personality type, but also that it's a gender biased area. That she's probably pretty driven and probably does think about work all the time. I'm not surprised by those personality traits. I don't think you can always, as that person, expect that from other people or from your employees.
But this is how she
necessarily.
hires people. That's the thing.
She wants people like her.
That's how you hire somebody. So you're saying, I appreciate a separation
Yeah.
of work and home life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's so this is your litmus test. I remember once, I don't know if I brought this up in an earlier episode, but when I was in HR and going to an HR conference, I met a VP of HR there, and she told me, this is when I was a college student, and I was volunteering at the conference, and she told me she knows if she's going to hire somebody after she shakes their hand. And I looked at her because at the time, I was a young Gen Xer. And I said, why do the interview at all?
Yeah.
Just line up 20 people against a wall, shake all their hands, and take your pick. It's this attitude of, I just know. Because that's actually where bias happens. Mm-hmm. That's actually where prejudice comes in and stereotypes come in. When you are going by that feel. That, well, if they do this, which is non-actual proof of no causation at all of being a good employee, I just know. That's because we have biases and we have prejudices and we have stereotypes in our heart that say, so the parent who whatever, or they're at church or they're whatever, doesn't respond in 3 hours, they're not going to be a good graphics design assistant for our website.
And I think that's the point too, is that if that response time is part of the job, so let's say you're hiring somebody who's going to be manning your social media accounts for 12 hours a day. Let's just say, I don't know what job that is. Then I think texting them during that 12-hour thing and seeing how quickly they respond might be an indication. If it's related to the job, then it makes sense. Like, it's like when we talk about doing creative resumes and we say, just do a regular resume, unless the job is creative and you're showing your creativity in the resume. Like, unless it makes sense,
of course,
then you shouldn't do it. And so for this, I'm kind of like, if you need quick response time, if that's part of the job, then maybe it's a little tool that makes sense, but it has to make sense within the job that you're hiring the person for. If the person is never going to need to respond to anyone's text, why are you texting them? It doesn't make any sense. It's not a good judgment. It might be who you like as a person, which would affect your biases. But if it's not part of the job, you shouldn't be using it in your hiring practices.
I think it's a sign of things to come. If this is how you're being treated before you get the job.
Yeah.
Imagine when you're on the payroll.
Yeah. Agreed.
Don't worry, you don't have to text at 3 a.m. But if you don't, that's a sign. That's a sign of what what we can expect from you. You know who you can text in the middle of the night, and they also won't get back to you, but they will during regular office hours, is Emma. myemma.com/unpodcast for all your email marketing needs, tips, tricks, case studies. And if you go to that URL, we have specific stuff on webinars. We have a live on podcast. We have some keynotes from Marketing United. All the stuff just made just for you can be found nowhere else except there. Go check them out. Thanks to Emma as always.
This story comes to us from usatoday.com. And it says, Wisconsin company to install rice-sized microchips in employees. Welcome to the future. A Wisconsin technology company is offering its employees microchip implants that can be used to scan into the building and purchase food at work. Whether or not to get a chip is up to the employee to decide. Three Square Market, a company that provides technology for break room or micro markets, has over 50 employees who plan to have these devices implanted. The tiny chip, which uses RFID technology or radio frequency identification, can be implanted between the thumb and forefinger within seconds, according to a statement from the company. The company is based in River Falls, Wisconsin, and they envision a rice-sized microchip allowing employees to easily pay for items. That's because, of course, that's why they want them to do it. Access the building and their computers, all with a scan of their hand. And so, to me, this always reminds me of what I always say whenever I see those scans is that's in a movie, that's a good way to lose a hand, because they cut off the body part. And it says employees are not required to get the microchips, but, encouraged.
No.
Why?
Not required yet.
Yeah.
Nope.
Definitely no.
Oh, don't worry. Also, the GPS tracking is not enabled. That's what they said. No.
It says, we foresee the use of RFID technology to drive everything from making purchases in our office break room market, opening doors, use of copy machines, logging into the office. Who is the company that uses copy machines and also has the technology for microchips?
Who's still printing on paper?
We're printing on, there's a bit of a dichotomy here. And says sharing business cards, storing medical health information, because that's a great idea, and used as payment at all their terminals.
Nope, just use their phones.
To scan?
Just put something in their phone.
Pass that's on their neck.
Yeah, but somebody can take it. But if you have a phone and a password or a thumb to get into the phone, fine. Nope and nope and nope.
I guess I shouldn't tell you about the microchip I installed in you a couple years ago.
Oh, that's fine. Just companies.
It's rice-sized.
Yeah. I feel it.
You don't.
Because that makes it better. It's rice-sized. Oh, then it's fine.
Oh, I thought it was a cantaloupe.
Yeah.
So this is fine. This is
Good.
fine. I don't worry about that.
The cantaloupe one, you notice, I had to take it out and put the rice-sized one in.
Are we really that hard done by to get onto the copier? They have to put an RFID
I just think it's
chip
funny
in
that their photocopy machine.
Oh man, I'm gonna have an Office Space moment in a second with that copier. This is from theoutline.com. Flying through the stories today.
So much content. Our listeners who hate us chatting are going to love this episode. Let's just chat the whole last 10 minutes of the
Well, let's take this down a notch and make it less controversial. And this was having a woman on your team ruins your chances for VC funding. A nice, more calm story today. It's a well-known, well-documented fact that women entrepreneurs face an uphill battle in the fight to get funding for their businesses. But a new study suggests that it can actually be almost impossible. According to the study, published Tuesday in the journal Venture Capital, having even one woman on a company's team makes them far less likely to get funding than an entirely male one. In fact, an all-male team is about 4 times more likely to get funding than teams with any women on them. The study was done by researchers at Babson College and Wellesley and looked at data on 6,793 companies funded between 2011 and 2013. This is the first large-scale study in a decade to focus on women's efforts to get funding, and it's not encouraging. The authors write, quote, "We did not determine any significant performance differences between companies with women CEOs from companies with men CEOs, so it's quite surprising that women are still, practically speaking, shut out of the market for venture capital funding, both as CEOs and participants of executive teams."
It's not surprising. I don't know why this is surprising anyone. It's not a surprise to me. People are the worst.
I'm shocked again. Like, literally, I actually am. I'm like, what? I thought, I'm like, this is some kind of, ring-a-ding study.
No.
That is like, that weren't doing the correlation right. But I'm like, nope, that's terrible. I apologize for my economy rant at the start of this episode.
I mean, it's harder for women to get mortgages. I mean, like, it's just basic lending. It's more challenging.
It's brutal.
Yeah, people are awful.
Yep. Well, speaking of people are awful.
Oh, yeah, this story's great. Okay, so we are really blowing through the content today. This is from anonymousnews.com, and the title is "Photographer Proves End of Privacy is Here Through Photos That Will Blow Your Mind." How anonymous are you? Google knows what you're looking for. Facebook knows what you like. The CIA knows how to use your TV smartphone to spy on you. Your communications are being monitored 24/7. You're being manipulated 24/7. You're being tracked 24/7. To quote British author Alex Preston, "We have come to the end of privacy." To quote a former tabloid journalist Paul McMullen, "Privacy is for pedos." Pedos? That's an awful word. I wish I hadn't read that sentence. If you still think you have privacy, 21-year-old Russian photographer Edgar Tveskov will convince you to think otherwise. So he created this thought-provoking social media experiment for an art project that is called Your Face is Big Data. And what he did was he spent 6 weeks taking photos of 100 strangers on the St. Petersburg subway. And then he used an app called FaceFind, which is a facial recognition app, to track down their profiles on among 55 million users who use, it says Vikont. I'm not exactly how to pronounce it, but it's Russia's largest social networking site. And so he published the pictures. So imagine this. So basically the idea is this artist took pictures of random people on the subway, and then he used this app to find those random people who he didn't talk to, he didn't interview, like it's just a picture, a facial recognition software, to find them in social media and then put their profiles beside their pictures. And he says that the idea of the project came to me when I first heard of the FaceFind app. I instantly knew that I wanted to convey to people how this thing will work. The people did not react in any way, although I quite obviously was photographing them. My project is a clear illustration of the future that awaits us if we continue to disclose this much about ourselves on the internet. So how would you feel? I mean, you like having your picture taken. Do you like this idea that someone could link you to?
Well, that's the thing, right? Everything comes out. Everything is, public or semi-public. It's just, it's...
Plus all the information, right?
Yeah.
Like so you're sitting on the subway, someone's taking your picture. He didn't hide the fact that he was taking their picture, but anyway. But then you can find out where you live, where you go to school, if you have children, if you have a partner.
It's very scary.
Yeah, it's a lot of information.
And about how different people looked, right? There's a part of that saying, right? You put your best self forward in social, and the difference of you sitting on a subway, minding your own business versus a posed picture. Something is quite different as well.
It's the ease. Like he talks about just how easy it was.
Yeah.
Like it was so easy to find a random person on the subway and connect them to their whole profile. And then, the secondary kind of thing is a discussion around how people put their best selves forward.
Right.
I mean, and I kind of I have wishy-washy about that. Like I see a lot of people like, you shouldn't do that. And I'm like, you always try and put your best self forward when you're in public. I obviously riding the subway, you're kind of not thinking about it as much, but
it's just scary, right? Because this really kind of hits you and says, "Oh wow," because we don't think about it.
It's also in the hands of everyone. Like I think there's an idea that we know that governments and some tech companies have the ability to do facial recognition, but in general, in the way we usually think about it, the police use it or the government uses it, but the idea that just some person on the subway can take your picture and use this app, which is accessible to everyone, and find out who you are, is sort of like a big step, I think. From most people would think they might use facial recognition if someone commits a crime, but then they're like, I didn't commit any crime, so it's fine. But do you want everyone on the subway to know? Like, do you want to walk around with a little, social media? Maybe people make better choices on social media if they know they can be found that more easily. I don't know.
It's Minority Report. It's just all RFID chips in your arm.
Yeah.
The episode before, what were we talking about with the Roomba, doing all your house and then using that information? Yeah.
I do think we should be careful, though. I think it speaks to the fact that.
But what does be careful mean? Like, what can somebody do, or is this be aware? Like,
well, things like you and I talk about, like, we don't usually post when we're going away before we go away. We are cautious about what information we share with our kids. Some people don't share where they go to school. Some people do. I do think that maybe your address, like if you're on the subway, you're not home. So if someone can just as easily figure out who you are and know where you live and go and rob you just because they found out you weren't home, I think we do need to be careful. I've always thought we needed to be careful. We need to think about it about being in public. So if you don't want to print all that information on your jacket sitting on the subway, you should be careful. I'm not saying, obviously, if we decide that this kind of breaking of privacy is illegal, then the person taking the picture has responsibility as well. But I'm just saying, if you want to take care of yourself, remember that it's really public now.
Right. All right.
Do we have a made-up word today?
Mm-hmm. Let's do it.
Don't make any sense. Don't mean no offense. It brings laziness. What is all this craziness?
And the great thing about the made-up word jingle, the writers, the creators of the jingle, were in Vegas right before we got to Vegas, and we almost got to meet up with them, but we missed each other by a few hours. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm sorry we couldn't say hi to you, but next time. The made-up word is a word that you, our listeners, send in to us that you have run across and said, come on now. They could be done in advertising, in an article, wherever, but just usually it's a couple of words mushed together to make one because we have nothing better to do with our days than make stuff up.
Who's got time for two words?
Right. So if we use your made-up word that you submit, and we're not guaranteeing you will, because some of you get uppity when we don't pick your word or credit to you. Trust me, we credit the first person that sent us the word. So sometimes we get the same word multiple times, especially if that word turned up in the news or on the internet tubes. So if we do,
doesn't like people getting uppity with it.
If we do pick your word and we credit you for that, we will send you any one of our books. Just let us know which one when you hear it being called. This week's word, and you can play along at home as well. Guess what it means? This is entershamement. Entershamement.
Shameful entertainment.
Shameful entertainment.
I think it's when you get shamed on live television.
Tessa says, I think it's when you get shamed on live television. Good. Adam?
Is it shamement?
Shame, yeah. S-H-A-M-E.
Yeah. Entertainment you're ashamed of.
Entertainment you're ashamed of?
Yeah, shaming TV viewing.
Shaming TV viewing. So the answer, Tessa's right, really. This is about the show like The Biggest Loser, where they shame people on TV.
And that's the entertainment.
To do something, and that's the entertainment of it. Tessa wins.
Entertaining the people.
Yeah.
Good job, Tess.
So this was actually not submitted to us, but I saw it on our friend James Fell's blog, bodyforwife.com. And he's, a friend of the show's, but also a great writer, writes for the Times and the Tribune. And he's always been rallying against the show like The Biggest Loser because it's horrible for the people and your body, and everybody's gaining back the weight and all this type of stuff. So we do suggest you go check out his stuff because it's pretty epic. And he's a great guy.
Great.
He's a great guy. Has a book coming out, I think, probably about a year from now. I guess he just signed the book deal for it. So he'll be, he's awesome. So go say hi to James for us. Tell him what's up from Scott and Allison and crew. And we can send you a book, James, even though you could have anyone you want anyways. So if you have yours, please send it to us. Twitter @unmarketing and or @unallison. Go to unmarketing.com through the comment form or on facebook.com/unmarketing. And that goes for any kind of news or anything you see, and you see it there and say, you know what, this would suit the UnPodcast, the business show for the Fed Up. Until next time, talk to you later.
Bye, guys.
Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and visit theunpodcast.com. And remember, friends don't let friends use QR codes.